Well, here we are on the week 7 homework, and your main job is to make your first mini project, a web page that shows a lot of the skills you've been working on. It needs to have a theme that you get to decide. It needs to have multiple sections. There should be lots of cool photos and text and styling and color and all that stuff. And probably you feel pretty confident about doing most of that. One piece that might be a little tricky is this navigation bar piece. How do you make a navigation bar that allows the user to click on a button and jump to a different section of your web page? We did that one example in the seminar, but you've only seen it once, so maybe this is a little bit difficult. So we're going to try one today, a little bit different than the one we did in the seminar, and see how it goes. What I've done so far is just made this sort of dummy page. It's got 4 sections. Your web page is supposed to have multiple sections, and these are just blank sections, so ready to be filled in with content. They've got a containing page div, a div with a class of page, and I used an auto margin so that it would always stay in the middle. And you can see what the HTML looks like. It's pretty simple. So there's my container div here with a class of page, and then 4 divs, each with a class of section, and then a specific ID. We usually give things IDs when we want to have links that jump to them. So I've given each an individual ID. And I'll show you what I did with the styling so far. Nothing too fancy here. So I changed the font size so these words would be big, made a fixed width of our page div. Set the margin to auto to keep it centered, gave it a little padding and a background color, and then with the sections gave them a height so we could see them, a background color, and a little bit of margin and padding. So nothing too exciting there. So how do we make a navigation bar? I mean, what if you're just wanting to do a navigation bar for a page you're working on and you're starting from point zero and you have no idea what to do? Well, I would recommend that you actually start poking around on the web and seeing what other people do and seeing what you can copy/learn from. I went to Google and I typed in navigation bar, and the very first thing that comes up is this article on W3 Schools. If you haven't seen W3 Schools before, it's a pretty decent website. It's got some fairly easy to understand and simple content about all kinds of stuff. Tons of stuff on CSS. And in this case, it's got some examples of navigation bars. It's also got some annoying ads, but we're just going to ignore those. The first thing this article says is that a navigation bar equals a list of links. And they've got an example down here where they have an unordered list, some list items, and then links inside the list items. That's the first thing we need to do. So I'm not going to just copy and paste this because I've got different words that go in here, but we're going to apply this idea to our website. So I'm going to go back in the HTML here, and we're going to make an unordered list. So first the UL and the closing UL tag. And then we're going to need list items in there. So, and closing list item tag. And then inside each of our list items, we're going to have a link to a section. So let me type the link. So a href equals, and for the link, we're going to use the hashtag to denote an ID, and then the name of the ID. So section -1 in the case of section 1. That'll be enough for the opening part of the link tag. Then we'll have the actual text of the link, which I'm just going to call section 1, and then we close the link tag. So this chunk right here is all the link. And it's sandwiched in between these opening and closing list element tags. And we should be able to see this. Let's scroll down. Yeah, there it is. So there's a link. And in fact, if I click on this, yep, it takes me right up to the top again, section 1. So that's working the way it's supposed to. Let's copy this and paste it 3 more times and then change what we need to change to make the links for the rest of them. Okay. So we'll have section 2 and section 3 and section 4, and we have to change the IDs in the same way. 2, 3, and 4. All right, let's take a look at that. So there is our list of links. And, as a navigation bar, it works. There are some drawbacks, though. I mean, I click section 3 and I go to section 3. Unfortunately, it looks ugly. It looks like a bunch of links with some bullets there, and it's stuck down here at the bottom of the page. So there's a lot we have to do with this still. Let's go back and see what they suggest to do next. So one of the things they're suggesting here in the styling for the list itself is to make the list style type none. What that does is it gets rid of the bullet points. And then this margin 0, padding 0, it removes any default browser settings so that when we apply margins and paddings to other parts of this, it's not going to fight with them. We call this zeroing out the margins and the padding. Let's go ahead and do that. I think what I'm going to do, rather than referring to the list to style, I don't want to select any unordered list in this web page because I might want to put other lists in here. I'm going to give this a class and we'll refer to it that way. So I'm going to call this navbar. Okay, so let's go ahead and style navbar. And what we want here is the list style type to be none, and we'll zero out margin and padding. All right, so let's see how that makes things look. Well, it got rid of the bullet points, so we've made some progress. We'll save that. Let's see what they're suggesting next. So in class, I made a horizontal navigation bar at the top of the screen. We're going to go ahead and do the vertical example that they're doing here. One of the things they're suggesting is that the links that are inside the list items should be displayed as blocks. This display block, in this case, what it does is it makes the whole area, so any padding you put around that or the width that you set, it makes that whole area clickable. And that's really nice for something that's acting like a button. So we're definitely going to do this. In fact, I'm just going to copy this as it is. And what we're going to do when we paste this is actually add a little something. So right now, this is going to style any anchor tag, any link inside a list element this way. I don't really want to mess up anything else I might have going on in the site. So I'm going to just, again, put in .navbar, spell it right, in front of that. So now what this is saying is any link that's inside a list element that's inside this specific list called navbar is going to get this block display and the width of 60. That's okay. All right, let's see what we can do next here. So this is stuff we've done already. Let's see what they've got in these examples. So here, this is the tag the tags we just styled. They've added some padding, and they've also put this line text decoration none. That gets rid of the underline in links, and I think we want to do that. So let's try putting that in here as well. So now we've got some padding, and you can see there's a little more space around these things, these links. So I think that looks better, and the underline is gone. So that's nice. And let's see what else we can add here. And here they've got a hover pseudo selector, and they're changing the background color and the text color. Let's go ahead and do that as well. Again, I'm going to add the .navbar in front of this, so I'm not styling all the links inside list elements I might have in my website. .navbar. All right, and let's see if that's working. Oh, look at that. So that's some really nice behavior. It changes those links, the text color to white, and gives it a gray background. So those look like buttons now. I like that a lot. That's looking great. One little trick you can also use is to give the hover a very short transition. And I'll show you the difference. It's a little hard to see, but I think it's worth it. I'm going to do transition all of 0.3 seconds, so just a third of a second here. And what you get is just this slight, almost imperceptible fade in, and kind of adds a nice style. If you take that away, it reacts really quickly. And if you add it back, it just gives a slight imperceptible pause. Not enough to get in the way of what you're doing, but it adds kind of a classy style to it. So that's something I like to throw in there. All right, this is looking pretty darn good now. I don't like the fact that these links are blue. The text is blue. So that's easy enough to fix. I'm just going to do color black. All right, that's better. And probably the main problem now is that this is still stuck down here at the bottom of our screen. So the way I'm going to solve that is I'm actually going to take this whole list and throw it inside another container div. So I'm going to make a div. I'm going to give it a class of navbar container. And then we'll put the closing tag down here at the end of the unordered list. Okay. So now we've got this, our whole navbar enclosed in this container div. Let's style that container div. So we'll make a rule down here for .navbar container. And we're going to give this a fixed position. And we're going to put it right at the top. So top, 0 pixels from the top. Aha, so it moved right up here. And we're also going to snug it up to the left. The left 0 pixels. All right, so we've got it right up, snugged against the top left. Unfortunately, it's kind of overlapping our sections here. So that's not exactly how we want it to be. If we make the page big enough, it's going to come off to the side, but that's not exactly what we want. So I think I'm going to do something different with the margins of my page. So let's actually put on page, let's put a margin around it of 100 pixels. On the left is what I meant. So margin left is what we're concerned with. And there we go. So now we've got an area here for navigation, and we could add more sections, and that's going to stay in that area, that 100 pixel area we created on the left. And we click on that, and we get to the sections. And this stays right there the whole time, no matter how far we scroll on the screen. We could play around with this to make it look even better. For example, maybe borders would be nice. So around each of the links, we could do border pixel solid black. And you have them bordered off. Maybe you don't like it on all sides. Maybe you just want a border on the bottom. Or maybe you just want a border on the top. Kind of like that one because you don't see the one snugged right up against the top, so it just looks like lines in between them. I think that's pretty classy. Maybe you just want a border on the right. You could play around with that. I like the top. If you want to, you can give these a different background color to begin with. I kind of like the white background on the white background of the page. So this is a nice vertical navigation bar. So give that a try. Poke around in W3 Schools or other sites like this. And if you feel stuck, something's not working for you, give me a call and I'd be happy to walk through it with you. Thanks and good luck.